Hello, my name is Colby Sharp. Welcome to my classroom. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Michigan, and I'm going to share with you today the very first 10 books, actually 11, that I read my fifth graders this year, picture books. I want you to let me know down in the comments your favorite books to read early in the school year or some of the books that you read to kick off your 2021-2022 school year. I'm so excited. If you're new here, please consider subscribing so that you can be notified the next time I post a video. The very first book that I read my students was School's First Day of School by Adam Rex and Christian Robinson. It's just the perfect way to kick off a year, a school that is feeling nervous about welcoming students into it for the very first time ever. And for a lot of the students coming back into school this year, this is their first time being in school in 15 months. And it's all of their first time being in school since last year. And just that excitement of the newness, but also the nerves that come with it. I think this book does a wonderful job of capturing that mood that we feel early in the year. Plus, my school is considering going to the community and to talk about maybe building a new elementary school. So the thought that we could have a brand new school in a handful of years, and the thought of not being in this school is just very emotional to me. And I don't even know how I feel about it, but I'm excited and nervous and stressed and worried and all of the feelings. And so I had like this other thing that I was thinking while we read this book, but it was a huge hit. Some of the kids had read it and they were excited to revisit it. And for many of the kids, it was the first time they had experienced this beautiful book. Okay. The second day of school, I'm not going to go like day by day, but some of the days that I do remember, is the second book that I read to my students was Beagle, The Adventures of Beagle, the Unimaginary Friend, the Caldecott Medal winning book, by Dan Santat, one of my top 5 picture books of all time. I love this book. I can't get enough of this book. I will read this book to every group of kids that I ever have. It's just picture book brilliance. Picture book brilliance. And I love it, and I can read it at any point in the year, and I can justify it. I'll probably be reading it again for some various lessons during the year, but I just wanted to read it because I love it. It's an amazing story. It's about stepping outside of our comfort zone and going for what we want. But also, Dan Santat is doing this Draw Like a Kid series on his Instagram account that is amazing and fun, and I wanted to do that with my kids. I wanted to draw with them and to just show them just some of the cool strategies that illustrators use to kind of go behind the curtain and see what drawing is and have some fun with it. So we got to do that. So we read this book, we talked about this book, and then we went to I put Dan's Instagram account up on the projector and we drew together. It was so much fun. Beagle. So good. I have a list of all of the books. I forgot to mention, I have a list of all the books down in the description of this video. So if you like these books, you don't have to write them down right now. You can just go down and look at the description at some point because, there's some great books down there. On the third day of school, my principal, Sue Haney, came into school to read to my kids, and she read them I Hate Picture Books, written and illustrated by Timothy Young. And it's just this fun book about this kid who's getting rid of all of his picture books, and he hates picture books, and picture books are awful. He's growing up, and that's a feeling a lot of fifth graders might feel at times. We don't know, can I read picture books? Or should I be reading these big, huge, long chapter books? And this book does a great job of showing that picture books are for everyone. Picture books are important, and picture books are magical. And I think what a great message for my students to get on the third day of school from their principal, that yes, you're in fifth grade, but she knows we're going to use picture books a lot in our classroom. So yes, you're in fifth grade, but that doesn't mean you can't love and appreciate and learn from the beauty and magic that are picture books. Okay, the Book of Mistakes. I know fifth grade is a year where a lot of kids are worried about making mistakes and worried about getting something wrong and worried about raising their hand and answering something and it's not like the correct answer in math. And we want to get past that. We want to take mistakes. We want to take chances, make mistakes, all those things that Miss Frizzle says in the Magic School Bus. And I love this book. I think it illustrates perfectly the power and the beauty of mistakes. We had a wonderful conversation around this book, and it was just really, hopefully, a tone setter for our classroom. The Book of Mistakes. I love this book. Set your imagination free. Okay, I don't remember which day we read this, but all are welcome. I just think it's such a powerful and important message, especially in a time where our world and our country is in such turmoil and people don't seem to get along and people are not welcoming in all places. And I wanted my students to know that they are all welcome here and that this is a safe place. And we're gonna do everything we can to make them like being here and make it the best year ever. So great book, great conversation. Love this one. Yeah, if you haven't read this one, it's just absolutely beautiful and brilliant. And then we read Dan's brand new book, The Longest Storm. And this book is so beautiful. And one of the reasons the reason that I chose to read it, number one, is new, and I hadn't read it to kids. All of the other books that I mentioned, I have read to kids, and I wanted to try something new and have some fun with that. So we read this one, and the thing that made, and the other reason that I wanted to read it with my students is because we had this awful storm in our community where I would say at least half of my class lost power for 5 days. It was awful. It was like one of the 4 worst storms in our state in like the last 50 years in terms of like power outages. It just came like in a flash and like everyone lost power. So they could really appreciate this one and they could really relate to what was happening in it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book. The illustrations are amazing. Dark Horse Caldecott Contender right here. Okay, so that's kind of like the first, so that's 1, 2, 3, that's 6 books. And those are all kind of bunched in the like building community, talking about what our class stands for, enjoying books, that sort of thing. The next 4 books that I'm going to share with you are books that I read because I'm introducing my students to different genres of books. So I want to very quickly introduce them to all of the genres that we'll be studying this year. Just give them a quick basic overview so they know the difference and they can identify them and they can start to see what to expect. So we like create an anchor chart and we talk about the genres. Then I read them a picture book and we talk about why this fits in that genre. And then I book talk some like chapter books and things that they might be interested in that genre. So here are 4 of the books that I use so far to help introduce the first few genres that we're learning about. So we've been learning about biographies. That was one of them that I did just like a quick day. Biographies, autobiographies, memoirs. And we read Alicia D. Williams and April Harrison's Shirley Chisholm Dared about the story of the first Black woman in Congress. Shirley Chisholm is amazing and is someone that I didn't learn about until much later in life. And I'm so thankful that through beautiful picture books that we get to learn about amazing people. That's one thing I love about picture book biographies is we get a chance to learn about extremely important, amazing people that maybe aren't like the Amelia Earharts and the Abe Lincolns and the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s that we also want to learn about, but we want to learn about Shirley Chisholm and kids want to learn about Shirley Chisholm and need to learn about Shirley Chisholm as well. So that was the book that I read. This is the book that I read my students after introducing them to biographies. But I also wanted them to see the difference between like a biography and then like autobiographies and memoirs. There's not a ton in the autobiography and memoirs space when it comes to like picture books, but there is one of the most beautiful books published the last 5 years that we talked about as being a memoir, Dreamers. Oh my gosh, if you haven't read this beautiful tale of someone coming to the United States from Mexico and their journey and the power of reading in libraries and picture books, the impact that it had on this family, you have to read this book. It is unforgettable. It is picture book brilliance. I'm guessing that like every picture book class, if there are picture book classes in like Illustrator and Author School, should study this book. It's phenomenal, and we had a blast talking about it. It's beautiful, visually stunning, unforgettable. Dreamers. Okay, and then we talked about fantasy, and we read The Story of Fish and Snail, which I have read, I think, every year for like 9 years, 8 or 9 years to my students in the first couple weeks of school. I love it. I love these 2 characters. It's really easy for the kids to see some of the characteristics of fantasy, but it's also another one like a classroom team builder where we're talking about stepping outside of our comfort zone, trying new things, being willing to take chances. If you haven't read this book, you need to read it. If you haven't read this book in a while, you should read it again because it'll just make your heart happy. We could all use books that make our heart happy these days. 2 more. Actually, this is supposed to be the last one because it's number 10. Crown, an Ode to the Fresh Cut. It's just the best, right? Like you see all the stickers. It's one of the best picture books probably ever. If there's like a top 10 list, it would be hard to find like a top 10 picture book list without this one on it. Like all-time top 10 picture books, at least for the last like 10 years. Absolutely, without a doubt. Crown, Ode to the Fresh Cut. Wow. Realistic fiction. Kids loved it. I loved it. Makes my heart happy. And it's just amazing. And I will be reading other books by Derek and Gordon very soon, probably next week, one of the other books. So Crown, Ode to the Fresh Cut, absolutely amazing. And then finally, the 11th book, the bonus book, Change Sings a Children's Anthem, because Amanda Gorman has written a picture book with Lauren Long, and it is one that I had to end our second week of school on because it's just perfect and magical and everything you can want in a book. Change Things, check it out. These are my first 11 books that I read my students. Let me know down in the comments the books that you're reading your students at the beginning of the school year. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Colby Sharp. I hope you have an awesome, fantastic day.